Hey, yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Smart TCG here, and today I'm going to be going over how to improve your Pokemon TCG gameplay for free. This video will be going over the methods that I use to remain one of the top Pokemon TCG players in the game. If you're a casual or competitive player looking to improve, then this video is for you. This video dives into the methods that a lot of top players use to see so much consistent success. That being said, if you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let's hop right into the video. Alrighty, so hopping into it here, I wanted to go over a little bit about myself as a player. In just the past 3 years, I have over 40 major event day twos, multiple regional championship top cuts, and over $40,000 earned from prize winnings and travel awards for my rank. I have hundreds of hours as well as a professional Pokemon TCG coach, so I know what it takes to reach the next level. So today, I'm going to be diving into what myself and other top players use to see success. One of the first things that you can do to level up your game is to understand risk management. One of the big things I notice when other players play is many of them do not understand when and when not to take risks. Typically, when playing against a poor matchup or you're in a situation where you're behind, you want to take higher risk plays. Even if those plays have a low percentage chance of working, they still often are the correct plays, because if they do work, even though they don't have a great chance of working, they can catapult yourself back into the game. You can't just continue to play conservatively against a bad matchup, because you will lose over and over and over again. However, in a favorable matchup, or if you are sitting ahead in a game, it's important to really focus around low risk plays. Just maintain status quo, and if you do draw reasonably okay, you should be just fine. Sometimes you need to go all in, and it's important to decipher when is and when is not the right time to do so. Next up, we have prize checking. Prize checking is one of the most important things in the Pokemon TCG. I created a little video here that will go over exactly how I prize check. Let's hop right into it. Alrighty, so hopping into it here, I'm going to be going over how I like to prize check. Now, prize checking is attempting to figure out exactly what cards you don't have access to. At the very beginning of the game, you put down 6 prize cards out of your 60 cards, and those are going to be cards that you take for each knockout. So that means that throughout a large portion of the game, you're not going to have access to multiple different cards that could be important to your strategy. So there is a way to try and figure out multiple of those prize cards in a timely fashion. Now, there are some people that believe that you want to try and search out all 6 of your prize cards and try and figure that out. Yes, that is nice. However, it admittedly is pretty difficult to do and can take a very long time. So how I like to prize check is by priority. For example, if I prize one of my 4 Buddy Buddy Puffin, that admittedly is something that I don't necessarily need to prize check for. I'm trying to prize check for the cards that I know I'm going to need. So typically, how I do it by priority is Pokemon first. I'm searching for my Pokemon first. Next up is going to be energies. Pokemon and energies are arguably the 2 most important things to your strategy, so it's really important to figure out what you've prized first of your Pokemon and your energies. Next up, we also have cards like your A-Spec. Your A-Spec is just a 1-of, as you're only allowed to play 1 A-Spec in your deck. So that's another really important card, because A-Specs are typically very game-changing cards if used at the right time. So making sure you have access to that is really, really important. And then also, lower counts of cards. For example, if your deck only plays 1 or 2, let's say, Boss's Orders, making sure that you have access to those is really important. If you're potentially playing, let's say, a Lost Vacuum, and, you're playing up against maybe a Dragapult deck, right? A card where Lost Vacuum can be really, really powerful against. Trying to figure out exactly if you have access to that card is really, really important. So typically on that very first search, I like to sort my deck in a way that first starts out by getting all my Pokemon and all my energy to the very top. Now, it's important to make sure that you shuffle very thoroughly after this, as you are putting multiple energies and Pokemon at the very top. This is what a lot of players like to do. The other way that you can do this is you can simply, while you're searching your deck, kind of put like your energies and Pokemon and just, kind of like stick them out. Is a little bit harder to do this. So I typically just like to put them all to the front. So I got all my Pokemon and all my energies right here to the front, and instantly I can figure out that I've prized a couple of Pokemon. It seems like I only have access to 3 Kirlia. That means I've instantly figured out, hey, I prized a Kirlia. Also, it looks like I have prized a Gardevoir EX as well. So like right there, that's another of my prize cards. And then when I'm looking for cards, like my A-Spec, for example, I do have my A-Spec. Then I'll look for my other 1 and 2-ofs. For example, things like Boss's Orders, cards like Professor Turo as well. And it becomes pretty easy to figure out at least half of your prize cards. So Priority, priority, priority. Try and search for the most important things. You really do not need to try and price check whether or not you prized one of your four, let's say Buddy Buddy Puffin, right? Did you prize one of your four, Arvin, right? You can figure that out on your ladder, searches throughout the game. So yeah, try and figure out the most important things first, and then as the game goes on, you can figure out those other prize cards. So yeah, that's typically how I like to price check. I go by priority, going Pokemon first, energy second, and then those 1 and 2 ofs that are really, really important. Next up, we have sequencing. The Pokemon TCG is a game where you draw so many cards, so it's really important to understand how to sequence. This game is all about hitting explosive combos to be able to achieve your strategies. And yes, there is some luck involved at times, but the better you sequence, the higher likelihood you have at succeeding. Let's hop into a few sequencing tips that can increase your level of gameplay. Alrighty, so hopping into it here, I wanted to go over some important sequencing tips that can improve your gameplay. These are going to be sequencing tips that you can use for actually multiple different decks in different situations that I thought would be relatively helpful. So the first thing I wanted to go over here is the Nest Ball. Now, this Nest Ball is a really interesting card in this hand because there are multiple different things that we could use to be able to get this. Now, typically in a situation with a ball search card, when you are looking for multiple different cards off this Nest Ball, for example, a card like, let's say we're playing against Dragapult and we want to have access to the Cresselia, but we also want Monkey Dory on the board. This is going to be a situation that happens with so many different decks. When a ball search card wants to search out multiple different Pokemon, it is typically best to draw first before you use that ball search card, because let's say you use that ball search card to pull out, let's say your Cresselia, and then you draw. You're only able to find one specific card off that, let's say, Refinement or Pheasantipity, as opposed to drawing first and keeping more options in your deck. For example, if you, let's say, Pheasantipity into Monkey Dory, then you can Nest Ball for Cresselia. Or let's say you Pheasantipity into, let's say, the Cresselia, then you can use the Nest Ball for the Monkey Dory, kind of vice versa, right? So it's really, really important to typically, when you're looking for multiple different cards, to draw first before you use that ball search card, because what you get off those cards you draw can influence what you use your ball search for, and potentially might make it so that if you just simply draw into the Pokemon that you need, you get to save that card. So that's really, really important when it comes to sequencing, because let's say here we used something like the Pheasantipity to draw 3. Boom, there we drew into that Monkey Dory. Now we know we can use this Nest Ball for something else. So when you need multiple different cards and you have the ability to draw, you want to draw first and then search out. However, if let's say we were looking for one singular card, to win the game, let's say we were trying to thin out absolutely everything, or like you knew exactly what you needed, then that's where you want to thin out first, right? So for example, if you're digging for one specific, combo card, for example, let's say you win the game with the Dark Energy, right? We would always want to use this Nest Ball to be able to search out the Monkey Dory first and then draw, because you know what card you need to actually win the game, right? But when you're looking for multiple different cards, that's when you draw first. Another important thing as well with cards like Pheasantipity is typically one of the best starters to a turn that you're going to have, because Pheasantipity has no risk. When a Pokemon gets knocked out, you can use that flip the script at any time during your next turn, and it has no risk because it simply just draws 3 cards. There is no drawback to this card. So if you're in a situation where you have the option to discard first or use Pheasantipity, typically just use Pheasantipity, because the bigger of a hand that you have, the easier decision it is on what to discard. For example, if you have a really small hand and you have the option to use the Refinement first or the Pheasantipity, if you only have 2 cards in your hand, you have to pick 50% of your hand to throw away with something like the Refinement. So typically it's better to Pheasantipity first, see exactly what you get before you make that decision on what cards to choose to discard. And this can apply for so many different decks that play Pheasantipity and, let's say, something like an Ultra Ball, for example, right? There might be, multiple different, good cards in your hand that you don't really want to Ultra Ball away. So it's typically better just to Pheasantipity first, because the bigger hand that you have, typically the better. That's actually kind of the reason as to why, if you're playing, let's say, a Lost Zone toolbox deck, why it's typically better to use something like Colress first, because Colress picks 3 out of the 5 cards. That means you take 60% of your cards. That is statistically an easier decision than taking 1 out of 2 cards, because you only take half the cards as opposed to taking 60% of the cards. So typically you want to put yourself in situations where you gain more hand knowledge first, usually before you make that difficult decision. But if you already know what you need, then typically it's fine to thin out. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over kind of an important sequencing thing that pops up all the time that I think people could definitely improve on. Figure out statistically what decks work the best for them. This spreadsheet below is from a few tournaments ago that one of my testing partners made as they prepared for a major tournament. As you can see, it has the majority of relevant decks in the format and what they thought its matchup spreads were against the top decks. After compiling all this data into a spreadsheet, they were able to figure out what the best decks for the tournament were. This is a tool that many top players have used in the past to prepare for tournaments, and it can be really useful to be able to have. Data rules. This may seem like something that is super simple, but it truly can have a hugely beneficial effect on your gameplay. Grinding games on the ladder is actually a great way to work on fundamentals like sequencing and also just to see if your deck functions properly. Many top players actually grind incredibly high up onto the ladder before events and have seen tons of success after doing so. Most notably, two-time regional champion this season, Henry Chow, has been a huge supporter in playing games on the ladder. Just playing games has so much value. Next up, we have reading metagames. It's important to use websites like Limitless TCG to see previous tournament results and what decks have been dominating. Predicting the metagame can admittedly be one of the hardest things to do, so it's important to look at trends. Typically, if a top deck does poorly at one event, it doesn't always mean it's entirely irrelevant for the next event. Sometimes it becomes an even better play because players may stop respecting it. Trends are so important in this game, and Limitless TCG is an amazing platform to figure out those trends. The link to this website will be in the description. It truly is an amazing website to use, and there's just so much data for competitive Pokemon TCG on here. Lastly, here we have online tournaments. Online tournaments are a fantastic way to practice your Pokemon TCG skills. Just being able to play in a tournament setting is incredibly valuable, and multiple top players, including myself, have used this platform in the past to prepare for events. This was one of the best ways for me to grind games when I was improving at the game, and multiple top players used online events to grow their skills. If you're interested in playing in online tournaments like the Late Night series, you can click the link below to access these events. I wanted to mention one more thing here, as this is entirely optional, but coaching is another great way to improve at the game quickly. This is only for players with the financial means, as it typically costs money, but being able to dive into the mind of a top player to pick their brain and receive exclusive one-on-one improvement sessions can be incredibly valuable for you as you grow your skills. I want to mention again, this is entirely optional and not a requirement, but if you have the financial means and the time, it is a fantastic way to learn some of the most specific and high-level skills in the game. Many of the best players in the game got coaching when they were growing their skills, and similar to sports coaching, having someone who knows exactly what they're doing can be incredibly valuable to learn from. But with that being said, that is going to do it for the video. Thank you so much for all the support as always. If you enjoy this content and are interested in more, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this style of video. I try and create content that helps you grow as a player. And if you are interested in coaching, by the way, one-on-one, I do offer coaching on Metafy. You can go check out that link in the description if you are interested in that. But anyways, thanks for all the support as always. I appreciate it. This is Smart TCG, and I will speak with you guys again soon. Peace out.